My friends, today I want to share something that touches each and every one of us. It's about waiting on God. There are moments in life when we find ourselves praying, hoping, and longing for an answer. We cry out to the Lord, asking when our breakthrough will come, when will the burden be lifted, when will our prayers be answered? And sometimes in the silence, doubt begins to creep in. We start to wonder if God has forgotten us. We wonder if He hears us at all. But let me tell you today, God's timing is always perfect, and the blessing you've been waiting for is on its way. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes 3:01 that to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. God is never too early and He's never too late. He is always right on time. But I know that for many of you, waiting is hard. Waiting tests your faith. It can feel like you're stuck in an endless wilderness. But listen, the waiting season is not wasted. God is working even when we cannot see it. He is arranging things behind the scenes, moving pieces into place, preparing the right people, the right opportunities, and the right moments. Think about Abraham. God gave him a promise that he would be the father of many nations, but years passed and still Abraham had no son. He must have wrestled with doubt, wondering if God's promise would ever come to pass, but God wasn't in a hurry. He was shaping Abraham, strengthening his faith, teaching him to trust in His divine timing. When the time was right, Sarah gave birth to Isaac, and the promise was fulfilled. My friend, what God has promised you, He will bring to pass. You may be praying for healing. You might be asking God for restoration in your family. You may be seeking a financial breakthrough, a job, a spouse, a child. You may wonder if your prayers will ever be answered. But I'm telling you today, don't give up. Don't let the enemy whisper lies into your heart. Don't let impatience drive you to settle for something less than God's best. The blessing you've been waiting for is coming. One of the enemy's greatest traps is discouragement. He wants you to believe that God has forgotten you. He wants you to think that your situation is hopeless. But my Bible says otherwise. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." When you wait on God, your strength is renewed. When you trust His timing, He lifts you up. The devil wants you to grow weary and give up right before your breakthrough. But don't give up, my friend. Keep pressing on, keep believing, keep trusting, because just when you think God is silent, He is preparing something greater than you could ever imagine. I've seen people in deep despair crying out for God to move, and in His perfect time, He opened doors they never thought possible. I've seen marriages on the brink of divorce, but because they held on, because they believed in the power of God's timing, restoration came. I've seen people struggling with sickness, with no hope in sight, and yet, in God's perfect moment, healing came. Remember Joseph? He had a dream that one day he would be in a position of great authority. But before that dream became a reality, he was thrown into a pit by his brothers. He was sold into slavery, falsely accused, and cast into prison. It must have seemed like God had forgotten him. But the Lord was with him through it all. He was shaping Joseph, preparing him for something greater. And when the time was right, in an instant, Joseph went from the prison to the palace. I don't know who I'm speaking to today, but someone needs to hear this. You may feel like you're in the pit, but God is not finished with you yet. You may feel abandoned, but God has a purpose in your pain. When the time is right, He will lift you up. The Bible says in Habakkuk 2:03, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." God has set an appointed time for your breakthrough. He has a moment for your blessing. It will not be delayed and it will not be denied, but you must trust Him. Some of you are standing at the edge of a miracle, but you're about to walk away because you don't see anything happening yet. But God is saying, hold on, stay faithful, don't let go. If you stop now, you'll miss it. If you turn away, you won't see the promise fulfilled. But if you stand firm and keep the faith, you will see the hand of God move in your life. The devil wants you to be impatient. He wants you to take matters into your own hands. But let me warn you, every time we try to rush God, we make a mess of things. Look at Abraham and Sarah. When they grew impatient, they tried to fulfill God's promise in their own way, and it only led to strife. But when they waited, God fulfilled His word just as He had promised. God doesn't need your help. He needs your trust. He doesn't need you to figure it all out. He needs you to surrender. Because when you let go and trust His timing, you will see Him do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think. I believe that even as I speak, God is working in your life. He is opening doors you cannot see. He is preparing blessings that have your name on them. He is lining up divine appointments, bringing the right people into your path, and orchestrating things in ways you never expected. And when that moment comes, when your blessing finally arrives, you'll look back and say, Lord, now I see why I had to wait. Now I understand why the door was closed before. Now I see that your plan was so much greater than mine. My friend, don't give up. Keep waiting, keep trusting, keep believing, because the blessing you've been waiting for is on its way. I want you to hear me today. What God has promised, He will fulfill. You may not understand the delays. You may wonder why the door hasn't opened yet, why the situation hasn't changed, or why the answer hasn't come. But I'm here to tell you that God is not a man that He should lie. His word does not return void. If He said it, He will do it. If He spoke it, He will bring it to pass. But He will do it in His time, His way, and for His glory. The enemy wants to whisper lies in your ear, telling you that God has forgotten you, that your prayers don't matter, that your faith has been in vain. But let me remind you of something. God is never late. He is always on time. Think about the story of Lazarus. Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus saying, Lord, the one you love is sick. They expected Him to come right away. They expected Him to heal Lazarus before it was too late. But Jesus delayed. Lazarus died. It seemed like hope was lost. It seemed like their prayers had gone unanswered. But what did Jesus say? He said, this sickness will not end in death, but will be for the glory of... Some of you are in that waiting place. You feel like the situation is too far gone. You think the opportunity has passed. But what you don't realize is that God is setting the stage for something greater. Jesus didn't come to heal Lazarus. He came to raise him from the dead. He didn't come to do what was expected. He came to do the impossible. And when He stood before that tomb and called Lazarus out, it wasn't just a miracle for Mary and Martha. It was a testimony for all who were watching. God's delay wasn't a denial. It was a setup for something bigger. I wonder how many of you have been praying for something and you think it's too late. Maybe you've been praying for your children and it seems like they're too far gone. Maybe you've been asking God to open a door and you feel like the opportunity has passed you by. But I tell you today, God's not finished. His plan for you is still in motion. His promise is still alive. And when the time is right, He will speak and your blessing will come. One of the hardest things for us to do is wait. We live in a world that wants everything instantly. We want answers now, we want blessings now, we want breakthroughs now, but God is not on our schedule. He works in eternity and He sees the full picture. He knows what you need and when you need it. He knows what must be prepared before He brings you into your promise. Think about David. He was anointed as king when he was just a shepherd boy. But he didn't step into the throne right away. He had to go through years of waiting, years of battles, years of running from Saul. There were moments when he must have thought, "Lord, you called me, you chose me, but why am I still in the wilderness? Why am I still struggling?" But God was preparing him. He was strengthening him. And when the time was right, David became king, not just any king, but one of the greatest kings in history, a man after God's own heart. God is preparing some of you right now. You don't see it, but He is working. The doors that haven't opened yet are because He's building something better. The prayers that haven't been answered yet are because He's aligning things for His perfect plan. The struggles you're facing are because He is refining you, strengthening your faith, teaching you to trust Him, even when you can't see the way. I don't know what your waiting season looks like, but I know this: if you trust God, you will not be disappointed. His plans for you are good. His promises are sure. He knows what He's doing. Maybe you're facing financial hardship, and you don't know how you're going to make it. Maybe you've been looking for a job and every door seems to close. Maybe you're asking God for a spouse, for a child, for restoration in your family. Maybe you've been crying out for healing and it feels like nothing is changing. Let me tell you, my friend, God hears you. He sees you, and He is not ignoring your prayers. He is working even when you don't see it. Think about Noah. God told him to build an ark because a flood was coming, but the flood didn't come right away. For years he built that ark. For years people mocked him. For years it must have seemed like nothing was happening. But when the time was right, the rain began to fall. And because Noah had obeyed, because he had waited, because he trusted God's timing, he and his family were saved. Had placed in His plan for us. God's timing is always perfect, even when we don't understand it. We may feel like nothing is happening, like our prayers are going unanswered, but God is always working behind the scenes. He has a plan and He's shaping us, preparing us for what's ahead. Just like in the story of Noah, he trusted in God's timing, and because of that, he and his family were saved. Some of you might be in your building season right now, praying for change, for progress, and it feels like nothing is moving. You've been faithful, you've held on, but the results aren't visible yet. But God says to you today, keep building, keep trusting, and keep believing. The floodgates of blessings will open when the time is right, and you will step into the promise He has prepared for you. Remember, we serve a God who is not restricted by time. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who parted the Red Sea, the God who made the sun stand still, the God who fed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish. If He can do all of that, don't you think He can take care of you too? I know the waiting isn't easy. I know there are moments when you feel like giving up, but I want to encourage you today. Hold on, keep pressing forward, and keep your eyes on Jesus. Your blessing is coming. Your miracle is on its way. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. God is faithful. He won't let you down. He will not forsake you. He is working behind the scenes, moving mountains, making a way where there seems to be no way. And when that moment comes, when the doors fly open and the answer arrives, when the blessing is finally in your hands, you will look back and say, "Lord, now I see, now I understand. Your timing was perfect all along." So don't be discouraged. Don't grow weary in doing good. Keep praying, keep believing, and keep trusting. The blessing you've been waiting for is coming, and when it comes, it will be greater, more beautiful, and more powerful than you ever imagined. I want you to hear this deeply in your spirit. God is not done with you. He has heard every prayer, seen every tear, and watched over every step you've taken. You may not see the answer yet, but He is moving, He is working, and His timing is not just good, it is perfect. Some of you have been waiting so long that you've started to question whether God's promise still stands. You've prayed, fasted, and cried out, but nothing seems to be shifting. You've stood in faith, but the breakthrough hasn't come yet. Now the enemy whispers, "It's never going to happen. Maybe God changed His mind. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe He's forgotten about you." But I'm here to tell you today, the devil is a liar. The Word of God says in Numbers 23:19, "God is not a man that He should lie, neither the Son of Man that He should repent. Hath He said, and shall He not do it? Or hath He spoken, and shall He not make it good? If God has given you a promise, He will bring it to pass. The issue is not with His promise, it's with our patience. God doesn't do things halfway. When He works, He finishes what He starts. That's why He's taking His time to prepare you for what's ahead. Some of you are asking for a blessing that you're not yet ready to carry. Some of you are praying for a door to open, but if it opened today, you wouldn't have the strength or wisdom to walk through it. Instead of rushing the process, God is building you up. He's strengthening your faith. He's teaching you how to trust Him, even when you can't see the full picture. Think about Moses. He was called by God to deliver the Israelites from Egypt, but before he could lead the people, God had to prepare him. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep, learning humility and learning to depend on God. That waiting season was not a waste. It was preparation for the great calling ahead. Some of you are in your wilderness season right now, wondering why things aren't happening as quickly as you expected. But let me tell you, God is getting you ready. He's molding your character, refining your faith, and strengthening you for what's to come. The problem with many of us is that we want the promise without the process. We want the victory without the battle. We want the blessing without the preparation. But if you receive something too soon, before you're ready for it, it won't be a blessing, it will be a burden. If you step into a position before your heart is prepared, the very thing you prayed for could become the thing that crushes you. That's why in His love and wisdom, God sometimes says, "Not yet." Think about Joseph. He had dreams of greatness, but before those dreams came true, he was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was falsely accused and thrown into prison. It seemed like everything was going wrong, but in reality, everything was going right. God was preparing him, and when the time was right, in a single moment, he went from the prison to the palace. Some of you feel like you're in a prison of delay right now. You feel like life has held you back, like you're stuck, like nothing is moving forward. But just as Joseph's breakthrough came at the appointed time, so will yours. God is setting things up in ways you cannot see. He's moving behind the scenes. He's aligning people, opportunities, and circumstances for your good. And when the appointed time comes, no force in hell can stop it. The enemy wants you to grow weary in the waiting. He wants you to give up right before your blessing arrives. But Galatians 6:9 says, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." That due season is coming. That appointed time is already marked in heaven. If you don't quit, if you don't give up, if you keep pressing forward, you will step into everything God has promised you. I want to remind you today that God's timing is not just about bringing blessings, it's about revealing His glory. Sometimes God delays an answer, not because He is withholding something from us, but because He wants to do something so miraculous that everyone around us will see His power. Think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They refused to bow to the king's idol, and because of their faith they were thrown into a fiery furnace. God could have delivered them before they were thrown in. He could have stopped the fire from being lit, but He didn't. Instead, he allowed them to be thrown in because he had a greater purpose. When the king looked into the fire, he saw not 3 men but 4. Jesus was with them in the fire. And because of that miracle, the entire kingdom saw the power of God. Some of you are wondering why God hasn't delivered you yet. You're asking, Lord, why haven't you pulled me out of this trial? Maybe God isn't pulling you out because he wants to show up in the middle of it. Maybe he wants the people around you to see his power. Maybe he wants your family, your friends, your co-workers to witness a miracle so undeniable that they will know only God could have done it. Waiting on God is not wasted time. It's the process through which faith is refined. It's the season where trust is tested. It's the place where we learn that God is not only faithful in the blessing, he is faithful in the waiting. I know some of you have been waiting a long time. You've been praying for years, believing, and nothing seems to be happening. But I want you to hold on to this truth. Delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. God is still on the throne. His promises still stand, and if he said he would do it, he will do it. Think of Hannah in the Bible. She desperately wanted a child, and year after year she waited, cried, and prayed. It must have seemed like God had forgotten her, but what she didn't realize was that God wasn't just giving her any child. He was preparing her to be the mother of Samuel, one of the greatest prophets in Israel's history. What she thought was a delay was actually divine positioning, and when the time was right, God answered her prayer. Some of you have been waiting a long time, and you feel like giving up. But I am telling you today, don't stop praying, don't stop believing. The answer is on the way, the blessing is coming, and when it comes, it will be greater than you ever expected. God has a plan for you. He is not late. He is not slow. He is not ignoring your prayers. He is working in ways you cannot see, and when the right time comes, you will step into the blessing he has prepared for you. So keep trusting, keep waiting, keep believing, because the blessing you've been waiting for is coming, and when it comes, you will see that God's timing was perfect all along. God's plans are always greater than anything we could imagine. Eventually, he fulfilled his promise to Abraham and Sarah, and in their later years they had a son, Isaac. When that child arrived, it was evident that this was the work of God and not of man. That's the beauty of waiting on God's timing. When the blessing arrives, there will be no doubt that it was his doing. Some of you have been trying to figure things out on your own, striving, pushing, and working, trying to make things happen with your own strength. But God is saying to you, be still and know that I am God. He is reminding you that he is in control, that he has already planned every detail of your future, and that his timing is perfect. Waiting on God doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It doesn't mean being passive. It means continuing to trust, to pray, and to walk in obedience, believing that God is working behind the scenes. Waiting is an active process. It is a sign of faith. Think about the Israelites when they stood before the Red Sea. They had the enemy behind them, the water ahead, and no way out. In their panic, they thought they were doomed. But Moses said to them in Exodus 14:13 to 14:14, "Fear not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord which he will show you today. The Lord will fight for you, and you will hold your peace." And in the very next moment God parted the sea, and they walked through on dry ground. Some of you are standing in that same place today, feeling trapped, not seeing a way forward. But God is saying, stand still and watch my salvation. See how I will move. See how I will open doors and make a way when it seems impossible. God's timing isn't just about when something happens. It's also about how it happens. When he moves in such a way that his glory is revealed. If the Israelites had crossed the sea on their own, if they had found their own way out, no one would have given God credit. But because the situation was impossible, when God moved, everyone knew it was His hand at work. Maybe you are facing an impossible situation right now. Maybe when you look at your circumstances, you can't see any way forward. But I'm here to tell you that the same God who parted the Red Sea is the same God working in your life today. He hasn't changed. His power hasn't diminished. And when the time is right, He will move in such a way that there will be no doubt it was His hand at work. Consider Elijah on Mount Carmel. The prophets of Baal had been crying out to their false gods all day, trying to bring fire down from heaven, but nothing happened. Then Elijah stepped forward, and before he even prayed, he poured water all over the altar, making the situation even more impossible. Then he prayed, and in an instant fire fell from heaven and consumed the sacrifice. Why did God wait until that moment? Because He wanted it to be clear that this was His power, not man's. God often waits until the situation seems impossible before He acts. He will allow the odds to be stacked against you, and He will make it look like there is no way forward. Not to discourage you, but so that when He moves, everyone will know it was His hand at work. That's why we must trust His timing. If you are waiting, it's because God is preparing something greater than you can imagine. If the door hasn't opened yet, it's because He is getting everything in place. If the answer hasn't come yet, it's because He is working in ways you cannot see. Think about the birth of Jesus. For generations, the people of Israel had been waiting for the Messiah, crying out, longing for the Savior to come. Then, at just the right moment, in the small town of Bethlehem, Jesus was born. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late, but right on time. That's the God we serve. He's never early, He's never late. He's always right on time. And if He was on time for Abraham, for Joseph, for Moses, for Elijah, for Mary and Joseph, He will be on time for you. So, don't lose heart. Don't let the enemy convince you that it's too late. Don't let doubt steal your faith. The blessing you've been waiting for is coming. The breakthrough you've been believing for is on its way. And when it arrives, it will be greater than you could have imagined. Hold on to God's promises. Keep standing in faith. Keep trusting in His perfect timing. When He moves, it will be more powerful, more miraculous, and more beautiful than anything you could have envisioned. And when that moment comes, you'll look back and say, Lord, you knew exactly what you were doing all along. I want you to understand today that God is not just a promise maker, He is a promise keeper. When He speaks, His word does not return void. It accomplishes everything He sets it out to do. Some of you have been waiting so long that you've started to wonder if you even heard God correctly. You've started to question whether you misunderstood what He promised. But let me remind you that if God said it, He will do it. He doesn't operate according to human deadlines or limitations. He operates according to His perfect plan. Many people in the Bible had to wait on God. They endured long seasons of uncertainty, seasons where it looked like nothing was happening. But in the end, they saw that God had a purpose in the waiting. David was anointed king when he was just a shepherd boy. But he didn't take the throne immediately. He spent years running for his life, being chased by Saul, hiding in caves, facing hardship after hardship. If you had looked at David's life in those years, you would have thought he was farther from the promise than ever. But every battle, every struggle, every season of waiting was preparing him for what God had called him to do. Some of you are in that same kind of season. You know what God has promised, but it feels like everything is working against you. It feels like you are moving farther away from the blessing, not closer. But I want to encourage you, God has not forgotten what He said. Just like David, you are in a season of preparation. God is strengthening you. He is refining you. He is building you into the person who will be able to carry the blessing when it arrives. If God gave you the blessing too soon, you wouldn't be ready for it. It would be too heavy for you to carry. Sometimes we think we are ready, but God, in His wisdom, sees what we cannot. He knows what is ahead. He knows what we need to develop before stepping into the promise. That's why He allows us to go through seasons of waiting. It's in the waiting where we grow. You see, faith isn't tested when everything is going well. Faith is tested when nothing makes sense. When you're praying, but the answer hasn't come yet. When you're believing, but you don't see any evidence. That's where real faith is forged. That's where you learn to trust God, not because of what He's done, but because of who He is. Look at Job. He lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health. He had every reason to give up. But he held on. He said in Job 13:15, "Though He slay me, yet will I trust in Him." That kind of faith shakes the enemy. That kind of faith moves mountains. That's the kind of faith that brings breakthroughs. And in the end, God restored Job and lifted him up because he refused to let go of his trust in the Lord. Some of you are on the verge of giving up. You've been waiting so long that you feel like you have no more strength left. But I'm here to tell you, hold on a little longer. Keep pressing forward, keep trusting, because just like Job, just like David, just like Joseph, your breakthrough is coming. God's timing is always strategic. He knows the exact moment when everything will fall into place. If you try to force something before its time, it won't have the impact it's supposed to. But if you wait on the Lord, when He does it, it will be undeniable. I think of Peter. He and the other disciples were in a boat, caught in a storm, terrified. But then they saw Jesus walking on the water. Peter, full of faith, said, "Lord, if it's You, tell me to come to You." And Jesus said, "Come." Peter stepped out of the boat and walked on water, but when he saw the wind and the waves, he began to sink. Jesus reached out His hand and pulled him up. What does this teach us? It shows that as long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he could do the impossible. But when he looked at the circumstances, he started to sink. Some of you have been walking in faith, but then the enemy brought distractions. He brought fear and doubt, and now you feel like you're sinking. But let me remind you, Jesus is still there. He is reaching out His hand. All you have to do is take it. God's timing will never fail. If He has brought you this far, He will not leave you now. You've come too far to turn back. Keep your eyes on Him. Keep believing, keep trusting, because the blessing you've been waiting for is closer than you think. God's timing is never off. It is never too early, never too late. It is always perfect. No matter how long you've been waiting, no matter how impossible your situation may seem, remember this: God has already planned your breakthrough. He has already set the appointed time for your blessing. When that moment comes, nothing can stop it. You may not understand the delays, you may not see the whole picture, but faith is trusting in what you can't see, believing that God is working behind the scenes. Every struggle, every moment of waiting, every unanswered prayer is not a sign of God's absence, but a preparation for what's to come. He is shaping you, strengthening you, and making you ready for the blessing that is on its way. So don't lose heart. Don't give in to doubt or fear. Stand firm in faith, knowing that when God moves, it will exceed every expectation. The blessing you've been waiting for is coming. The door is about to open, and when it does, you'll look back and say, "Lord, Your timing was perfect all along."